It's time to get rocked. RockStock Canada. I am so honored to welcome Lee Aaron. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, my absolute pleasure, Deb.
Now, first and foremost, I have to say we are just so excited to have you at the RockStock Canada Festival, because one of the reasons I was just praying to have you was because, number one, you're an original artist. We've all grown up with you, and you really mean something. And so I'm just so grateful that you accepted, because we're just pumped to have you. I think it's just going to be exciting. Do you get tired of festivals at all? Do you like the festivals?
Oh God, no, I love
You love the
festivals. And,
festivals?
and I got to be honest, my favorite types of festivals, because we do a variety of different types of festivals. For instance, I'm going to France later this year, and we call them boutique festivals. A lot of them are indoor, and they're
Nice.
anywhere between 800 and 3,000 people. And
Beautiful.
there's just a bit of a more intimacy with that size of festival than, say, you're doing Wacken in Germany, that
Right.
is on any given
Massive.
day 80 to 100,000 people. Or last year I did the FEQ with Motley Crue, and I played in front of 110,000 people. And as exhilarating as that is, there's definitely a bit of a disconnect with the audience, because your closest audience member is behind a barricade 20
Right.
feet away, right? And so I love playing festivals that are about your size, actually.
That's
So
and I
we're
love that.
really thrilled to come to Rockstock Canada,
That's
and
awesome.
also to see what you're going to put together, because I have so much admiration for a female businesswoman that's,
Thank
got it
you.
together, and just, you know that the beer tent's going to happen, and the catering and everything's going to be good if a woman's at the helm, right?
Yeah, you're so right.
Sorry.
It's so true. And it is kind of it's like been the last few years of the woman thing, because I'm watching even in films now,
Yeah.
and almost every lead role that's a boss is now a woman. If you watch carefully, it's really transition. And I think it can be a little too overdone too. I like equality myself, but I do believe you. I think that when a woman's there, it's organized, it's well thought through, and there's a forward thinking. Now, let me tell you why I'm even in a band myself, because I never ever saw myself as a singer. As I told you in an email, like I actually did a lip sync of Metal Queen in high
Right, you were
school.
saying,
And I
yeah.
actually got great grades on it. I was so excited, but that was as closest to a rock star as I was ever going to become. I
Yeah.
was never accused of being a good singer, so I never even thought or entertained ever singing for a living. I'm a voice actor and I love performing. And I was a
Right.
theater person as well, so I love performing. But my now husband was a guitarist. He's a pilot as well, but he's a guitarist, and I'm like, ooh, I don't want to be a band wife. Like, I just didn't want to be a band wife. And so we were supposed to just do acoustics around the fire pit, and that's all it was supposed to be. And here I am. But I am,
Oh, that's great. That's
right?
amazing.
But I'm kind of sad that I missed the boat of the 80s. Like, I feel so deflated that I wasn't into it then, because I just would have loved to experience the camaraderie of the crowds then. Like, we're a bar band and we do festivals, but we're not a huge band by any means. But back in the 80s, I mean, the bars were packed, and it was that energy of aggression and love and passion. And now it's like you're trying to fill the bar, and people don't go out as much as they used to. And it's not that same camaraderie, I think, as it once was. You have to really earn that. And so it's I feel sad that I didn't get to experience it. I got to experience it as a fan, but I didn't get to experience it as a musician. But I want to ask you, one of the things that I've been researching when putting this festival together is looking at past videos of yourself and interviews, for example, and some of our other feature artists. And being a woman in the rock industry wasn't an easy thing, was it?
No, not at all in the
Like,
beginning.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it was one. It's interesting that you're asking me that question right now, because it's very timely for me, because I've been in the midst of writing my memoirs, it's been a bit of a process, like since COVID, really. But I've, made multiple albums and done a bunch of touring in as well. So I've kind of been like, piecing it together in dribs and drabs. I'm still working on it, but I think I've realized as I've been writing it that a huge overarching theme of my entire experience was, clawing my way
Yeah.
to the top of the heap in the boys club,
Yeah.
and in a very, very sexist and challenging environment for a woman in the 80s, because, I often describe it as this: the 80s, especially the early 80s, it was a culture where if a man slapped you on the ass, you were supposed to think it was a compliment. And it was just like, that is just like insane
And we
now.
accepted
Like,
it. That's the worst
oh
part. We
yeah, and we were
accepted
going,
it.
we go, oh, you're cute, and you're like, now that's, just living in, it's such a different climate now.
Yeah.
And I always had issues with all this stuff. And,
Yeah.
and even like to take it to another level, my very first manager and my early label heads, it was all about, if they signed you
Accepting.
to a multi-album deal, the, the culture for men was, well, we've signed this, fledgling band, and we're going to develop them over a multi-album deal and give them time to grow into their artistry. And by the time they get, like, even a Bon Jovi, like, it wasn't until their third or fourth album till they had huge success. But
Wow.
when you're a woman, right out of the gate, it was like, can she sing? Does she look hot? Can we find her some songs? And it's like, wait a
Wow.
minute, I'm a songwriter.
Yeah. What is it different?
I have something going on inside my head that I want to express. And so it was really a battle to really just fight for
Just stay,
respect
just be
and
respected,
dignity
period. Never mind going anywhere with it, right?
in the boardroom and in the studio and on stage. And
Crazy.
it's interesting because my husband was watching the new Lilith Fair doc. And by the time the 90s came, obviously, the whole world opened up in terms of, like, people were ready.
Yeah.
The culture was primed to hear a woman pick up a guitar and write an angry song. I mean, Metal Queen was
Right.
an angry song. Metal Queen was inspired by all of the sexism we were subjected to. And
Really?
the whole premise of the song was, I can be the woman in charge. I can be
Yeah.
the matriarch. I can be the girl boss. That was the whole theme of Metal Queen,
Right.
right? Which went
Wow.
over like every
Yeah. They didn't even pay
17-year-old
attention to
boy's
it.
head like a 747, but I don't know that the girls missed it, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the whole premise of that song. And Lilith Fair, their whole thing was, we don't want Madonna, we don't want the sexy girls from the 80s. And it's like, it almost hurt my feelings to
Yeah.
hear him say that, because I was like, are you kidding? We fought all the hard battles for you guys. We fought all those battles so you guys could pick up a guitar, write
Yeah.
an angry song, and be respected in the 90s.
No kidding.
And I think that's really an important message that I kind of want to get across with my book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was something that was so important to me. It's actually the reason, honestly, other than so honored to meet you, but I really wanted to interview you because I think that's something we've all taken for granted. And again, it's not about women's lib. It's about it wasn't equal. And I just didn't realize that until studying those videos. I just never thought what it would have been like then, especially in the rock industry versus maybe the more preppy industry, which maybe wasn't. So, for example, the Madonnas and stuff, maybe it wasn't as, I don't know. I haven't watched them enough to figure that out. But I think, wow, I just never thought of how you would have to struggle, claw, as you worded it, to find your way to be respected equally and not be just treated like you're a hottie that they can make money off of. It's
And
crazy.
that's kind of was the attitude. But yeah, I
It's
hear what you're saying.
insane. And
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
respect that you got through that because that does set a precedence for all of us. So I just want to thank you on behalf of every woman
Oh,
for the struggle you went through because I know that made a difference for all of us. And it's it's a sad thing, and it's not as much a reality now, but it's still a reality that you guys had to go through for us, and I don't mean me as a musician, I just mean women in general, because there is a different respect now, and we've found our footing a bit. And I mean, God help you all if we take over. Seriously. If women take over, I always said presidents, prime ministers, whatever it is, the head body in charge should always be a man and a woman. And in this day, androgynous in every way you want to say it. I just think that gives a better balance, because women are really good at thinking ahead and planning and preparing, and men are really good at quick on their feet. Everybody has a very good justification to bring, but they don't seem to balance it, because you need that yin yang. I've always believed in that. Even in my business, I always created, like, as a voice actor, I would create a voice couple. Don't just hire me. We'll give you the same price for two of us, just so that you're hitting that market, because you miss a lot of your demographics. And demographics are very, very important. And I think that's probably why you stood out so much for us, because there wasn't enough women being able to fight that. I'm sure a lot of women gave up because they didn't want that. And if I could add on top of this, from my understanding, and I don't mean to oust anyone in particular, but the bands had a really hard time making money because the promoters took most of it, right? Did you experience that a lot?
I wouldn't necessarily say promoters.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, it's funny because in one of the chapters I wrote, I broke down the way an 80s record deal worked. Actually, if you go online and you look up,
Sorry.
that's
my,
okay. You might hear
my
my
dog
dog
Munchie.
bark soon.
It's okay, Munchie, Munchie, it's okay. Ah, silly girl.
If you go online and you look up, I think it's Jared Leto explains the nature of how record companies work. And it was even worse in the 80s. And, it was a situation where the way that the record labels, the record deals were structured. And I don't really know any Canadian artists that actually made money off their albums.
That's what's so crazy.
You'd make millions for the label, and somehow you'd find yourself going forward. It took me about 5 albums in, and I remember getting my unrecouped statements back going, oh my God, like, I'm a star. I've got a double platinum album, and how can I still owe $500,000
Right.
to the label? And why do they want to make another record with me if I owe them $500,000? Like, I'm
Yeah.
$500,000 in debt, and it's like, because you're really not $500,000 in debt, because somebody's making money.
That's right.
That's why. And then of course the agents and the managers would take their cut, which is usually 10 and 15%. So
Yeah.
if you're playing a live show, you've got a quarter of your guarantee, your gross guarantee, going to your manager and agent before you even get taxed and pay your entourage and all of your expenses.
It's
So it was it was hard to get rich, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I misworded. It was the labels that were doing that. And I think that was the same in the States. A lot of my friends that I've spoken to say the same thing. And now we're in this new place of where I think artists are struggling even more so because of the Spotify's and everything else that's come out. So we're not making money off of albums, or they're not making money off of albums anymore. And so now the tours become the only way you can actually make a decent return in this industry. And then people sit there and question why some of the tickets are expensive. And it's like, well, they're not making money off all those free songs you're listening to all the time. You're not paying enough, whereas we used to pay $15.99 for an album, and we were supporting the band in some way. But I think if us fans knew back then it wasn't going to the artist, I think we would have stood up a bit more. And I think that that's one place that, again, I just want to bring that to light, because I think, although I see a lot of documentaries talking about that now, I just think it's important for people to understand the struggle of being an artist back then must have been, and how it must have been, because touring isn't that fun, is it?
Well, it is and it isn't.
Okay.
Getting out there and doing your craft night after night after night is lovely. And I have a
Right.
wonderful band and a great group of guys that I'm working with, and I just love them to death. But being it's funny, again, my book, I wrote a chapter about, I used to think, man, having a tour bus would just be like the epitome of luxury and blah, blah. And it's like, it's kind of like slightly elevated, slightly more glamorous camping with a bunch of
Yes.
sweaty dudes, and
Yeah, exactly.
you're all sharing a little toilet, and it's no escape from, snoring and,
Yeah. Well, this is kind of what
smelly
I mean
socks at
is like
night. So
when from my understanding, because I used to be a dressing room hostess, and I remember I used to have to go get like specific vodka from wherever, and I had to have this, and these kids were 17 and they were asking for very specific things, and so I was bitching to the head, and I'm like, what the hell is these spoiled little brats? And they said to me, listen, Deb, they're on the road 6 to 7 months a year. They don't get home cooked meals. They don't get, so they deserve these kind of things. So it gave me a new light and understanding of, yeah, a tour wouldn't have been necessarily easy. You're away from home a lot. I mean, I think, I
except now that we're older, we're like putting like really, really expensive protein bars so we can take them with us in the van and eat them the next day, and not
exactly.
feel like hell,
Yeah, just to keep the energy going, right? For
Yeah.
sure, exactly. And now do you still, so you still enjoy touring, or you like, and I mean that genuinely as a human being, like, do you still enjoy that? I know it's something that's the only way we can shop out the music that way and keep it going and stuff. But it must be hard. You must want to just, I'm not sure how often you tour, but it must be hard to always have to be touring.
Well, the way it kind of works for me since I had children, my children are, I call them children, but they're young adults. They're 20 and 21 years old now.
Oh,
And, when I used to tour, God, 200 to 300 shows a year. And it was,
yeah,
it was, it was,
a
it was
lot.
backbreaking. And when my kids were born, I had this crazy idea. I was just going to pack my daughter up and take her on the road. And then she screamed all the way in her car seat to Safeway. And I was a nervous wreck. And I went, how did I ever think I could take on an airplane? Oh my
Yeah,
God. And so I took all my agent and I said, just call me with the highest paying shows. I can't
yeah.
go do this night
You
after
got to be
night.
more
So,
selective.
um, and it's the funny thing is after my kids got older, I kind of just stuck with that formula. I joked around one time we did a show with Hart, and I was talking to Nancy Wilson back when her twin boys were younger. And she's like, yeah, it's called becoming a weekend warrior, and so that's kind of what I do now is weekend warrior work.
Oh,
I don't
good.
really go out
That's
and
good.
like I think I don't know 3 or 4 years ago we went to Europe and we did like 12 shows in a row, and that was our European tour. But I don't do that very much anymore.
Oh,
It's
that's
more
good.
like I got a show coming up next weekend in Port Coquitlam, and then I'm flying to
Nice.
Toronto in March, and I'm doing a show with New Choir
Yes.
in
You have a
Brampton.
fundraiser, right? It's a fundraiser, is it not? That one's a
I'm not
fundraiser?
sure if it's a
Oh,
fundraiser.
okay. I
It
thought that
might
one.
be.
Or but you
I'm
have
excited
some
about that.
fundraisers that you're doing, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I might go and do 2 or 3 shows a month,
Okay.
and they're higher
That's good.
paying.
Yeah.
And I find that music is, and a lot of the legacy acts like myself, that is what we're doing these days.
Yeah.
And it's just
An
far more
earn ship.
enjoyable because it's not, when you've played What You Do to My Body in a row, when you're on your 177th night of playing this, it kind of loses a bit of its sparkle. But when you're only
Yeah.
going out and doing it 2 or 3 times a month, it has that same kind of excitement,
Of course. Of
and
course.
some people knock the nostalgia factor, but I love it. I absolutely love
Great.
it. Like, do you know how many people come up to me after a show and they're going, "Oh my gosh, Lee, like this is my, this song you played. It's me and my wife's song. We met, at this place at this festival in 91, and you were playing, and it's our favorite song." And or they'll come up to me and go, some girls do. That was my song that got me through my divorce, and
That's an
the
honor.
thing about nostalgia, you realize that music is such an important factor in that from a brain standpoint because music connects you to a memory and a place and
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And those are the things that make our life rich,
It's
and
true.
art and music. And so nothing makes me more brings me more joy and makes me more flattered than people going, I love that
Meant
song.
something to me.
So
Yeah.
I'm always going to include all my old hits in my
That's
set, right?
awesome.
Because
Yeah.
people love it,
Yeah,
right?
well, of course,
Yeah.
and that's our familiarity to you. I've got to tell you, we as a band did Fire and Gasoline when you came out here at
I
Casino
heard, yeah,
Rama.
I'm so excited about that.
Oh, I love that song. I
Thank
love
you.
that song. And I'm like, so I'm feeling it's underrated. Like I just feel it's so underrated. And so I'm like, I'm going to help. I'm going to bring this song and everybody's going to know it. Everybody's going to love it. And I'm like, so I sit there even live, like, don't you guys get this? It's like, you're like, this is such a beautiful song. And then the more I listen to some of the other stuff that you've done, because I hadn't heard a lot of your newer stuff, I was like, wow, you guys write really great music. Just some
Thank
really
you.
wonderful, and I'm not just saying that, it really is. And I think it's so unfair that it's not out there as much as it should be, because I do feel it's harder. Like we're an original band as well. So we've wrote an album. Unfortunately, we did a video and it was right during COVID and we had a great video, but no one saw it. It was during COVID. We couldn't do a video release. We couldn't do anything. And so I'm learning firsthand, being newer, that it's not easy to shop out an
It's
album.
very challenging
Yeah.
to, so when I make new albums, I don't do it uh, because I'm expecting to rise to the top of the heap and become a big mega star
Yeah.
again. You learn over time that the joy of being in music is just simply the creativity and the
The art.
perseverance factor.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my daughter is an aspiring actress and singer,
Oh,
and
nice.
I tell her that, don't give up just because you've been
Yeah.
turned down 100 times in an audition. The same thing happened to Ryan Reynolds before
No,
he
no,
found
no.
the role of his lifetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do it for the joy of it
Yeah.
and because I love writing great songs. And the people that do hear it and appreciate it, the nice thing about my audience is my audience is between 45 and 70, and they actually still like to buy CDs and albums. So
Exactly.
I'm able to sell, a certain number of physical product
Right in person. Yeah.
to those fans, and they really appreciate the music. And whether you think it's underrated or not by popular culture standards, you learn over
Still
time.
appreciate
There's
it.
always another 20-year-old out there ready to just kick your ass, right?
Yeah, of
And
course.
it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I have to just keep writing great music and doing it because
Enjoying it.
I'm passionate about it and I love it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've done some of my very, very best work and producing. Like I produce much of my
Awesome.
own material now. Um,
Awesome.
in the last decade of my life. But it's funny. My manager calls and he's like, "Oh, it's such a great song. I think we're gonna have luck getting it on the radio." And I'm like, "They won't play the new Brian Adams, right?
Really?
No. Why would they play
Oh,
Lee Aaron if they won't play Brian Adams? Brian Adams keeps
wow.
making, new material, but what do you hear when you turn on the radio? You
Yeah, their
hear,
old stuff.
I'm gonna run to you, you hear run to you, you hear
Strange.
Summer of '69, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the familiarity. And it's so
They
sad
play
because
all his old
familiar,
hits, but they don't play his new stuff.
right, because familiarity can't happen until it's replayed and replayed. And it's like, again, I'm a graduated broadcaster. So for me, that DJ world, it's like, why wouldn't you help them? That is part of the team. Like, that's part of the team. It is a team situation. And you can't, like, we need their help, unfortunately, to get to the masses, right? Short of social
It has
media
to
and
do with the
stuff.
corporatization of
I
radio,
know,
though.
it's so sad.
Unfortunately, it's like, one or two big companies that own all the radio stations now across Canada.
Yeah.
And so, you want to get played, you might get played on college radio or you might get played on
Yeah.
some community radio or independent radio. But the age of DJs having autonomy to break an act are gone.
Gone.
It's sad because
Mm.
it was very much like that in the 80s, and we had a lot of
Yeah.
support back then in the 80s and early 90s. But that
It's
the
not the
age
same.
of that is, the program directors just go, this is what people want, and you're not allowed to veer away from the formula. And
Well, then I think it's time us musicians get together and create our own damn station and make our own damn mark in this. In fact, I might even head that. I did want to ask you, so far in, but I wanted to ask you, what got you into this? Were you always wanting to do that, or is that something that happened to you, or?
well, interesting. I was a lot like my daughter. I was very involved in musical theater
Oh, good.
when I was young. I sang a lot of jazz and blues and Broadway songs. The
Nice.
old Tin Pan Alley writers, all throughout my schooling years. And you know, when I was a young teen, my dad worked at Humber College in Toronto, and he brought home a trunk full of vinyl that the radio station was getting rid of because they were switching to 8-track,
Oh, of course.
the long-lasting format of 8-track. And they just got rid of their vinyl. So he brought home a trunk of albums because we were like, I'd say middle class ish family. Like we weren't very overly wealthy. We didn't, I think there might have been 10 vinyls at my house that were my mom's Anne Murray collection, and my dad had
Yeah.
Roger Whittaker and Merle Haggard. And when he brought home these albums, in that pile, I found The Runaways, and I found Heart,
Nice.
and I found Fleetwood Mac, and
Nice.
um, well, those were some of the female
Yeah.
artists, and a variety, just Elton John, Supertramp. It was just all this stuff. And I was just so inspired, and Led Zeppelin. And I started listening to
Nice.
Heart and Led Zeppelin and going, wow, this is like, maybe I could sing like this. And then just the strangest thing happened around the same time. I was 15 years old, and I was in a school production had the lead singing role in a production of Babes in Arms,
Oh,
Rodgers and Hart. And this local bass player approached me because his brother was also in the production, and he played in a local band outside school. And he said, I think you should audition for our band. We're looking for a singer. I'm like,
oh,
really? I'm only 15. And he's like, yeah, but there's a couple of guys in the band that are 16. So there was sort of like the proteges from, or the prodigy kids from the Bramalea secondary school program and my high school program, because the bass player was in grade 12 at my school. And they brought me into audition, and they're like, yeah, we want you to be the singer in our band. And so when I was 15, I sort of landed in this rock band outside school. And like I always tell my kids, like, we didn't have video games.
yeah.
I had to fight to get a landline in my room so I could talk to my boyfriend when I was 16 years old. Do you remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
Like, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have like the
Yeah.
world in our pocket and all this brain distraction that kids have now. Like,
Hmm.
the only fun thing to do
It's music.
was go to the roller rink and play in a rock band.
Here, here. Here, here
And
on the roller skating.
so ice skating in winter, roller skating in the summer,
Yeah.
go play in a rock band. And so, you know, I just put all my energy and dedication into it.
That's awesome.
And then we met the man that became our first manager when the summer I was graduated. I was 17, and we played the big Brampton band shell, the Chinguzi band shell. And he came out to see us, and he's like, I think I could put you kids on the road. And
Wow. And
that's
there
kind
it
of how it
was.
happened. And so I hadn't really sung rock up to that point, but I
Okay.
wanted to. And then I discovered that I could.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it happened. And then over time, we started writing songs, and the rest is history.
I think it's important to note when I was studying to do, like, for example, Guns N' Roses or something, when we cover Guns N' Roses, I hear a lot of girls singing Sweet Child, and they sing it very pretty.
Yeah.
It's very pretty, but it doesn't suit it. It doesn't have that edge. It doesn't have what I think rock resembles, which is the grit and the angst. And I feel that there's very few women who do honor that. And I think you are definitely one of the forerunners for leaving that with us, because it's not just like you have stunning voice, but you have a voice of rock. You feel rock. You can feel the aggression. You can feel, and then again, when we go back to how hard it must have been as a woman trying to prove that and show that, I think that really stands out, because I think a lot of people miss that. And I'm learning as a singer now myself, it's like, not everybody has that to go into that genre. It's not an easy genre for a lot of women because they don't have that upbringing. Like, I like your story. My mom gave me a record player, this white and red thing, and then this album with these 4 clown faces on it. And I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't even know what this is. And it was Kiss.
Kiss Alive. I talked about that album in my book too, because it was one of the first like serious rock albums I ever heard. As I think I was like 11 years old, and I was just like, who are these
Right?
dudes?
I was the same. I was
Wearing
10.
silver spacesuits and makeup, and what the heck,
Well, and funny to
No.
add to your story. So mom introduces this to me. I'm listening to this music, and then I start really getting into metal. I love metal. And then I was playing Led Zeppelin in my room one day, and she's like, turn that shit down. And I'm like, it's your fault. Stop bitching. And then when Robert Plant came out with the Honey Drippers,
Yeah.
right? She was like, oh, Debbie, you've got to hear this great musician. And I said, Mom, that's the one you were telling me to turn down. No, it couldn't be. It's like, so I actually love my mom for giving me that Kiss album, because it really got me into the place of passion of music that I like, because I do like the heavier music. I really always have. I think I'm not a country fan. I don't hate it necessarily, just not a fan of it. And I love the angst, I think, of rock and what it does. I want to ask one more question about how you met your husband. Did you meet your husband through music then? He's in the band with you. So how long has that been?
So crazy. We've been together 25
Aw,
years. I
congratulations. That's
know.
beautiful.
Which after
Especially heavy
after a
musicians.
string of bad boyfriends and a
Yeah.
husband or two, I got it right. Yay. No shame here, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's a long story. I was singing jazz at the time
Oh,
because I had a little tenure of singing jazz in the late 90s into the 2000s, which
oh,
was wonderful,
I would
by
have
the
to live for
way.
that. Yeah.
And we ended up on a tour going coast to coast across Canada. And a little bit of a long story. A friend of mine at Network Records, was a beat poet, but he needed a headliner, and he wanted to put together an A-team band because he couldn't afford to take 3 separate bands. So I wanted my drummer, but he said, no, we're going to use my drummer, who was my now husband.
Husband.
We're going to use my drummer. And I said, but I want my keyboard player, my sax player. So we cobbled together this band. We compromised. And that is when I met my husband, is I went to this rehearsal because this was the A-team band we were taking across Canada. And I met him at this first rehearsal, and he had a bit of an attitude because he just kind of thought, you know,
Who is
she's
this?
just that cute chick. What you do to my body, chick? Like he's a very, very serious,
Oh,
not
okay.
only musician, but an audiophile collector,
Ah,
music historian, very educated about music. And he had a bit of he just thought I was going to be like a little Pop Tart. And I am being honest. And then we did the first rehearsal the first day, and he said he went home and he went, oh my gosh, was I ever wrong about her? She's super
ah,
talented and super nice, and she seems pretty smart. And we ended up spending 6 weeks traveling across the country together on this tour. And by the end of the tour, I think we were in Cape Breton. And I remember we stayed up almost all night talking, because we just got on like a house on fire because I am, right? Um,
exactly.
and talking about music and history and just all the things, these different topics that were interesting to us. And he said he went to bed that night, went back to his room, and he went, I'm going to marry that girl.
Oh,
Now, I wasn't so sure because I had just recently come out of a pretty not great relationship, and I was trying to get my life on track, and I'm like, I'm going to be single. And anyway, we stayed friends for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then and before cell phones, and we emailed back and forth. And then eventually I agreed to go out to dinner with him one night, and then the rest
The rest
became
is
history. Then we
history.
started dating, and then we got married about 2 years later.
Aw,
So, and it worked
that's
out because
nice.
we both wanted kids, and we had
Yeah.
our kids, and
Well,
now
and
we
nice you
just,
found someone in the industry
yeah.
too, because I don't think it's for everybody to be, like I said, I didn't want to be a band wife. I don't know why I seemed, my dad was a bassist and I just had a slight inkling of what it's like to just, what do you mean you got another gig? And what do you mean you're getting another guitar? And what do you mean? And so I thought it
Being
was
a,
just,
being a band wife can be a bit lonely
yeah,
because your guys
exactly.
playing, and
Yeah,
you've got to really have a strong foundation of trust,
big
because
time.
when you're apart all the time,
Yeah,
everybody gets lonely, right? And there could
yeah,
be, so there's got to be a lot of trust, and then you always feel like you're kind of you're automatically relegated to being the support person for this person all the time.
yeah.
It's your job to support them and lift them up in their, endeavors to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I always take my hat off to band wives because I just think it's a big deal, or band husbands, either way. It's a big deal. It's hard to support, and it's hard to, like, the trust and all that other stuff that was there, especially back in the 80s. It was just a whole nother planet. So it's a big deal. So I'm really grateful to have been a part of it because I didn't know, I knew I always loved music. I didn't know I would ever be in it. And it's now such a different, it's a different place. It's a different footing. It's a different understanding. And so I am just really loving the journey. I just think it's a beautiful thing. And what I think I love the most, I always wanted to be a talk show host because I just genuinely love people and I love people's stories. And the one thing it gives me is that freedom to go approach anybody at any time without them being a little more standoffish, which is what a talk show host would have given me. And so I get that little bit, and I see in the fans that they just have this love and passion for the music. And that's just a really special thing. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the animation fans because they're diehards. They're diehard fans and they will just do anything for the love of music. So it's a beautiful gift that I think I've been given to be able to have experienced it in any way, shape, or form. And so I can only imagine what it's been like for you throughout this whole journey. And I think your story is amazing. Your music is amazing. And we're just so grateful to have you. And
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
so excited to meet you in person. And I just think we're very gifted. And so thank you for all you've done for the music industry and what you leave behind with us. And you guys, you must listen to her new albums. They're amazing. 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 Anyway, thank you so much, Lee, for agreeing to do this with us. We are very excited to see you in person August 15th, guys. You'll see Lee Aaron live
Yes.
and in person.
Did your
So
promos for
exciting.
you today, and I will transfer them to you tonight.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm just going to stop the recording.
RockStock Canada. This summer, the nation's biggest rock celebration is here. August 14th to the 16th, with a full weekend of live music, camping, and the ultimate car and bike show. We're raising the volume and support for 3 incredible charities, with even more surprises dropping soon. Get your rock on.